Welcome everyone to another one of the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame inductees for 2019, and we've got Skip Richardson here. And Skip, first just let me start off and say congratulations on your induction into the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame. I'm sure it's very appreciative of your nomination and now the induction.
Yes, thank you, Mike. And yes, it was quite an honor to be even nominated, let alone be inducted in, and it took a few years, and I had no problem with that. I would just look at the list of names every year and see who was on there, and I said, well, okay, I'm not getting in this year.
yeah, no kidding.
Because there's a lot of drivers out there that were way ahead of me, and there's still some out there that are way ahead of me.
Yeah.
Should be.
How did you first develop an interest in racing? Where did that come from?
Well, my dad was a truck driver, but every once in a while he'd come home and we'd go down to Riverside Stadium and watch the races down there. And actually the noise from the pop cans and beer cans and bottles going down that slide behind the
chicken wire
was louder than the races. But yeah, he took me down there, and I got very interested. My first hero was Bud Honeycutt. I loved Bud Honeycutt, and I didn't meet him until years later.
Right.
But and I told him he was my hero.
Yeah. That sounds like it could have been the late 50s.
That was mid 50s to late 50s.
Right.
Yeah.
Terrific time to be at Lakeside. To me, that was, looking back, maybe the optimum time to be there, because it was, man, there was just so many good racers at that time. The competition level was really high, and of course the track was just super. There's no track even today, I don't think, compares to Riverside. How about you?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. In 1960, though, you are helping Cliff Story as a crewman as he's racing around the Kansas City area.
Yep.
About where was that and how did he do?
Well, a lot of it I don't remember exactly. Bucky Job lived right across the street from Cliff Story. He had his own car, but every once in a while Cliff would get him to drive his. And it was always a different driver. And in fact, I found out later, and I don't know if he drove when I was spitting for him or not, but Judd Larson drove for him.
Wow.
And I didn't know that, but found out from his son the other day that he had drove.
Yeah.
I said, I might have pitted for Judd Larson. I don't know. But I didn't know him. The only one I ever knew was Bucky Joe.
Yeah. And what was it that you were doing during that time? I mean, were you just helping out in the shop or in the pits, or what were you doing?
His son Marvin and I were in a hot rod club called the Pharaohs, and we ran together in that club, and we loved racing, drag racing down at Choteau, and we loved the races, Riverside and there. And every once in a while I'd go over and help him over there, but it wasn't every night. It wasn't a continuous thing. And then when I was in the pits, I just help him with tires and, stuff like that.
I wouldn't want to use the term gopher, but
yeah, I was a gopher. I can guarantee you. It was a lot of times I did a gopher stuff.
And a learning experience along the way.
Very definitely, very definitely.
You were also into drag racing for a while. I mean, a straight liner, man, for all these years that I've known you, being around the circle track. But you were a straight liner And I understand you race some motorcycles.
Yes, I drag raced motorcycles 77 to around 80, 81.
Yeah.
And I drove my own, which was a 350 Honda, and won a lot of trophies up at
Not 36.
Lawrence, Kansas, Lawrence Dragway.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
It was the 8th mile. And then I went over to KCIR, and a guy asked me to drive for him. And he had a bigger Kawasaki, and I drove for him. But he has all the trophies and money that was won from that.
Yeah.
But I won 8 times with the 350 Honda.
Yeah.
In fact, Tom Bierman, who I was running around with at that time, introduced me to Don Burlington, who got inducted this year with me. And he built one of my motors in that motorcycle.
Yeah.
And it was fast.
Yeah.
For a little 350, it was fast.
Do you remember any of your elapsed times or top speed?
I don't remember any of the 350 Hondas. They didn't give me a time slip most of the time up at Lawrence. The only one I remember, the fastest I ever went was 966, 149 miles an hour.
On 2 wheels?
On 2 wheels.
Holy smokes, that scared the living daylight out of me.
They're doing 6 seconds now.
Yeah. You have any close calls?
No, I was real lucky. I never did.
Yeah.
Never did.
I was going to say, what I remember about my motorcycle days was sometimes you get to go into those speeds and you start getting that handlebar shake. Nothing, none of that? Or
None of that. I had a chain broke on the line when I popped the clutch. Chain broke.
And that was it.
Yeah, that's the only one.
Moving on to about 1983, you buy a camera and decide that you might take a few photos. And that takes you back to your dirt and asphalt tracks around the Kansas City area. Did you have a favorite place that you liked to shoot at during those times?
I even did some drag racing and took pictures there in 1984. And I took some there, and down at Mocan Dragway, I went down there and took some. But mostly I was out at Lakeside. And I was there one night, and every once in a while people would come over to me and say, "Hey, did you develop that picture?"
Yeah.
And buy it from me. And one day Bill Bruton came up to me, who was a track photographer there and Riverside, and asked me if I was taking pictures, and I said, yeah. And I thought I was in trouble. I thought I was going to get barred for the track or whatever.
Kick you out of the infield.
Yeah. He says, well, I'm looking for somebody to take my place. He was wanting to get out. He asked me if I would like to do Riverside and Lakeside. I said, well, to be honest with you, I'd just rather do just Lakeside if I was going to do it. But I wanted to do it differently, and I wanted to set up everything. So gave me a couple of weeks, and I finally told him yes.
Yeah.
Started in 1984.
Yeah. Now that had to be a lot different than what photography is nowadays with these digital cameras. I mean, there had to be a lot of hours involved. I think I spend a lot of time editing, but man, you were dealing with film. That wasn't.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you have your own black room? Is that the right term?
No. Dark room.
Dark room.
There was a 1 hour photo down here. I'd run down there and get them to do it.
Really?
And then turn around and bring it back. And then anything I needed copies of for the tracks, I'd send it back down and have those made. And then if the week before somebody had ordered, I had a lady that lived over in Lee Summit, and she would blow them up for me.
Yeah.
And then I'd go pick them up during the week.
Man.
I was up till 1:30 at night.
Yeah.
A lot of nights.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of nights.
I know John Lee talks about sometimes he'll shoot 1,500 pictures a night.
Oh, yeah.
Were you anything even close to that?
Oh, I'd say probably at least half.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
And boy, how many rolls of film would that be? Because I recall when film only had like 36
I
pictures.
always bought the 36ers.
You're talking 750 pictures and 36 rolls on or
Yeah.
36 pictures on a roll?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
That had to be expensive too, man.
Yeah, it was. I never made money at doing photography. I never made money at it. It was a love. I loved it, enjoyed it, and especially when the people say, I love that picture you just took of me.
Uh-huh.
And I want so many of it, but
Yeah.
that was the main thing.
And the other thing had to be that the cameras, I mean, let alone the film, I presume 35 millimeter.
Yes.
So it was fast enough then to, as they say nowadays, stop the action.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was fast. Depending on your camera.
Yeah. What kind did you have?
I had the first one was a Canon A1 programmer. And then I went to a Nikon.
Yeah.
F1 or F2, I think it was.
Yeah. Staying on this subject, what might have been the most popular or published, I presume you had a lot of your photographs published, picture that you ever took?
Well, the one that was published the most wasn't actually taken by me.
Oh, okay.
It was taken by my assistant, Pam Walker. Dwayne Walker, number 19 years ago, and modified.
Yes.
As his sister, and she started shooting for me, and she'd be at one end, I'd be at the other, and she was we were at I-70 and Jody Ridley broke a tie rod and went through the foam that they had put around the edge and went up near, and she was all the photographers that were there, because it was an all-pro race, a lot of photographers. She was the only one that got him up in the air.
Midair.
Yeah.
Oh,
They either got him here or
on
here.
the other side.
Yeah.
So it got published in a national magazine?
It got published on All Pro's yearbook,
Yeah.
and it was in a couple other
Yeah.
places too.
Yeah.
And but as far as myself, there was two. One that stands out the most is Mike Hill was in the lead, and there was a yellow, and I was down in 1 and 2 at Lakeside, the old Lakeside, and he pulls up in front of me. Well, the yellow came on. I turned off the battery, and all of a sudden his car burst in flame right in front of me, and I snapped the picture, and I thought, damn, and I turned on the camera, and then I took another shot, and the one without the flash was spectacular. Shows his hand up like this.
Oh, really?
Got burned.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
my.
a little bit, not
Yeah.
bad, but got burned.
Yeah.
It just spectacular picture.
Yeah.
That's my favorite of all.
The favorite one of all.
Yeah.
In 1994, there again, stepping ahead just a little bit, your son Michael wants to help out on a race car. Wants you to help out on a race car. Where did that take you?
To the poorhouse a lot of times. The first year that we started was 94. He asked me a couple years before, and took us 2 years to get the car built and everything that we needed.
And what kind of car was it now?
It was a 71 Chevelle.
Okay, so it's going to be a stock car, street stock? So.
Yeah, it was in the Charger division.
Charger, okay.
At Lakeside. And, excuse me, we went out there and, it wasn't the best car. And we had a lot to learn.
Uh-huh.
But I always told him, I said, start at the back and learn from the guy in front of you. And then if you pass him, and learn from the next guy.
Yeah.
And he was doing that. So the 5th race come up that we were going to race at, and his mom comes in from Las Vegas and is going to come out to see him. His sister had never seen him race, was going to be there. So it was in the heat race, and he got out and loose stuff going down between 2 and 3, and then he tried to get back in, and J.D. Green had already filled the hole. Well, J.D. Green and him, and Mike took the big brunt and went into that tire. A big tire was at the end going in the pits. So he was the first one to ever hit that thing. And so I'm there, and I ran over to him. I was the first one to him. He was unconscious, but he woke up real quick. But yeah, that. So 94 was a turning point of my photography. I too busy watching him.
Right.
Instead of taking pictures. And,
Sounds like somebody I know.
yeah, and
Curtis.
yeah, and I just, I had to give it up. And then the track owners changed. They wanted me to do both tracks, I-70 and Lakeside.
Uh-huh.
I had already quit I-70. I said, no, I just want to do Lakeside. And he says, well, I need somebody to do both.
Right.
I said, fine.
Yeah.
And I knew the digital cameras were coming out and were so much superior, and I didn't have the money to go into that. So I just became owner and
race dad.
yes, and trying to get the sponsorship and all that.
Yeah.
And I videoed.
Yeah.
I videoed every race.
Yeah. How did he eventually do, and how many years did he race?
He raced from 94 to 2001. 98 was the last year at Lakeside on asphalt.
Uh-huh.
And then we went to, or 99, excuse me. And then we went to I-70 and raced 2 years there. And we just didn't have the money for late model.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's expensive
We
stuff.
won 13 races at Lakeside in the Charger division or Sportsman late model. And then we went to Moberly and won a big race there. But then we got just notified during the week that we didn't win.
Oh.
The guy that actually won it got disqualified. And then they reinstated him. So,
Whatever.
we raised the trophy, though.
Yeah. You got to bring that home. Tell us a little bit about how the checkered flag committee came about.
Well, I don't remember exactly where or what, but I was doing something evidently with C.A.R.B at the Speedway or something, and somebody approached me, and I could not tell you who that was, and asked me would I be interested in helping them. And I asked him what. He says, I need somebody to bring in the racing people. And I said, sure, I'd be glad to. And so all I did was bring in the racing aspect of, our local racing.
Mm-hmm.
I brought cars out there, and I brought one of our sponsors, Napa. We brought their big truck with the tools and everything in it. I went out and got T-shirts, whatever I could get that was racing oriented, and we had so much of it that we were just throwing it on our shoulders, And I got C.A.R.B to set up a booth. I did that, but basically I worked with some great people, and eventually we got the tracker.
I was going to say that whole project was oriented or whatever around Kansas Speedway in trying to get NASCAR and or NASCAR people interested in bringing Kansas Speedway to the area.
Yes, we were competing with, by that time it was between KCI up around there and Wyandotte County.
Right.
And Lynch and Well, the Arnhart girl came, and they were very impressed with what we did.
Yeah.
And I think that was a turning point.
Yeah.
I hope that was it.
Right. 2009, you and your wife Carrie come up with an idea for an all-vehicle ride. Now, not motorcycle, but all-vehicle ride for Victory. And it raised just a little bit of money for the Victory Junction camp. Tell us about that, Skip.
Well, Carrie and I talked to some people and knew that Kyle Petty and Patty Petty were coming in here to maybe build a deal for kids here. And we jumped in on that and located people who we knew and got set up a ride and like I said, and the first one was down at Fairfax. We started Fairfax Motors down here and Chevrolet, and we ended up raising at the end of the year $10,000.
Wow.
And next year we did it again over Missouri. I'd explain it to you, but we get a lot more Kansas riders than we do Missouri riders,
Right.
because of the helmet laws.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't get as many over there. But it was a great ride, and we raised, I want to say $4,000
Yeah.
the next year.
Right.
But at that time, the economy was dropping. And Patty Petty was here. My wife even cleaned her room over there
Yeah.
for her. And she stayed here, and finally they dropped the whole thing because
Yeah.
just we're not getting the money out of
Yeah.
Kansas City area.
Yeah. That's too bad. But there again, though, a tremendous effort and a lot of money that I'm sure they put to good benefit.
It was a project that Carrie and I both loved
Yeah.
and would like to have seen done, but
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. One of those things. You've been very active in C.A.R.B. Just let me name a few of these. Sergeant of Arms, Blood Bank Chairman, Club Photographer, Vice President, President. You helped or started the golf tournament, and you also came up with the original concept for now one of the most popular things, and that's the Kids Club. Yeah. Man, you've been busy, Skip, in C.A.R.B.
And I loved it. I love racing.
Yeah.
And it took me 37 years to find the lady that would be by my side that loves as much as I do, and that's Carrie.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for her, I might have dropped out. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
sometimes we need that little.
You need that little push. And then in 2016, we were looking at possibly losing C.A.R.B because nobody wanted to be president. And I sucked it up, said,
Here I am.
Here I am, I'll do it.
Yeah, take
I
me.
did it for 2 years. Found me a good guy to take my place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's doing real good.
Yeah. I have to say, it's nice to have somebody to step in the breach. Because like you say, C.A.R.B was teetering.
Yes, it was.
And man, for you to take on that responsibility, because not to get too heavy, but let's just say the club was teetering and it needed some leadership. And thank you for doing that.
My aspect of doing it was I wanted to pick a board that was going to work with me. And I don't mean just do the things I need them to do. When you go to a meeting and you come up with an idea, you brainstorm it.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody has a little thing that can refine it a little bit, Justin knows. If somebody else comes up with something a little bit, you discuss it, maybe refine them both, and come up with the idea. That's how the Kids Club started.
Mm-hmm.
And, C.A.R.B, as we all know, is part of the engine, short for carburetor.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find a shortness for kids' club name. And I got to thinking about it. Well, you need a carburetor to run an engine. You also need spark plugs.
Spark plugs.
And so I said, how about the spark plugs? And everybody went overboard on it.
Yeah.
Just loved it. So
That's where Sparky came from.
the name Sparky came from that, yes.
Absolutely.
It currently has close to 80 members now, 80
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Like I say, one of the really popular things with C.A.R.B racing.
Yeah.
Skip, who would you say has had the biggest impact on your life in or outside of racing?
Ooh. Outside of racing?
In or outside?
In or.
In or?
Yeah. And you can take your time with these.
Well, I pitted for a couple years, you know, with some low budget teams, and we had fun, and it was fun. Tom Bierman and I got together, and I couldn't even tell you how we got together, but and we started, helping him. I started helping him, and at that time Terry Bibbins was driving for him. And as far as racing, Tom Bierman and even Terry Bibbins got me hooked. I mean, hooked to the core. And I went from there, and then Tom and I went to drag racing, and at that time, Tom, it was a period in Tom's life that he wasn't that good. But we even built a drag car. I bought it, and we built it. And, love the man, but he's still one of my biggest influence. His son was an even bigger one. His son would come up with... Don Burrington built that motor, and he built the headers for it, and they looked like junk on that bike, but it had horsepower. And then I went and bought your high dollar hooker ones, chrome, good looking, never ran as good. I mean, that's the intelligence I was around at that time. Mm-hmm. So as far as racing, I would say Tom is. My biggest influence as far as personal would have to be my mom and dad. They were a big influence in my life. My dad had a disease that my sister and my brother died from. And my mom had strokes, many strokes later in her life, and I ended up having to take care of her, but they were the biggest influence. And now they have the approval of my current wife, and she has definitely influenced me lately.
Thank you, Skip. What would you like to be known and remembered for?
I just think I want to be remembered for being dependable, did a good job, and worked my butt off. And that's all as far as racing, I love it. I'm a racer to the hilt. If I could drive, and I've tried, that's why I went drag racing. I would do it, but, my son wants to get back in it. I can't help him, but I'll support him in every way I can.
Yeah. If you could relive one moment in your life, be it to enjoy it over again or to do it differently, what would you say that moment might be?
The up and down day we had when my mom at 3 a.m. fell in the hallway here, broke her hip, was moaning, and I was in the next room. And she woke me up, and I got up, and we ended up taking her to the hospital. They had surgery on her. And we had a big 50-lap race at night at Lakeside for the Chargers, and that was the big race of the year. And, you know, going through the whole deal with my mom at the low, and then she comes into the recovery area, and she told us to go on out there and win it for her. We go out to Lakeside Speedway, and he won that race. And went down in the pits. I'm photographing her, you know, video. Went down there, and Michael and I just, you know, and then I went up to the hospital and spent the night with her. So, yeah, that was
Yeah.
roller coaster, but I will never forget that day.
What character traits does it take to be a Hall of Famer?
I believe hardworking, honest, there's so many other, like not only just a good driver, but I think nowadays you have to be fan responsive, and these kids are our future, and I love to go out Lakeside and see them and the other tracks, and the kids come in the pits and they get to sit in the cars.
Absolutely.
I love watching that.
Yeah.
I think that's, you know, be somebody that they can be proud of and honestly proud of, not somebody that you pay him a high dollar and then turns around and abuses women or something like that. That's nothing.
Yeah.
That's trash to me.
Right.
But there's so many out there that I can name that are like that.
What's the biggest risk you've ever taken that you feel paid off?
Biggest risk?
That ended up working out well for you.
Probably marrying the love of my life, but
Good answer.
no, I would have to say when I started the photography in '84, Bill Bruton was selling them up in the stands. So all the wives are down in the pits. So they'd have to really rush up there and rush back before they close the pits. And I thought, why don't we sell them in both places? So I brought my van and I pulled it in the infield and set it up. Got me a gal to work. Got somebody to work up the stands. I sold them both. And Bill Bruton come up to me one day and said, I don't know why I never thought of that. And so I'd say that was a risk, but it paid off.
Paid off.
Yeah.
What do you feel is the biggest evolution that is taking place in racing during your lifetime?
Oh boy. I'm hoping it's what we're seeing for this season coming up. We've got 5 tracks that are having the same rules, where I can go on Friday night, race someplace, Saturday night, race someplace, Sunday race someplace. I think that is a great deal where these tracks are working together instead of trying to cut each other's throat. I believe that's the newest thing to come about I see happening.
I agree.
I like that. He's the first one to say that
Yeah.
the evolution is yet to, the biggest evolution is yet to come. I really like that.
Yeah.
Skip.
I hope it is. Hope it is an evolution.
This is my last question for
Sure.
this segment. What would you say is the best advice you can give to the next generation of racers?
Racers,
Mm-hmm.
work hard, study, Learn from your peers, and don't go out there and try to win the race the first time. Learn everything you can learn and then get up there. Once you get that first win, it seems to come easier after that, but it still takes hard work.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, a lot of people in the stands, they think, okay, he didn't crash the car tonight. He really doesn't have anything to do to it. Believe me, there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
You got to go from one end of that car to the other, every nut and bolt. So you have to be dedicated. And I think that's the traits that you need now.
Thank you, Skip.
Yeah, that's what we hear. Skip, once again, let me congratulate you on being inducted into the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame. I know it's a great honor.
It is a very great honor.
For anybody in the Kansas City racing scene. And like I say, congratulations, Skip.
Well, thank you very much. I can't express enough the feelings I have for it. I've went to every induction ceremony, and I hope to be at a few more.
Yeah.